Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 18, Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. Chapter 18 is essentially a final summary of the Bhagavad Gita. After systematically outlining various spiritual truths, Krishna offers his Paramam Vacha, his supreme advice. One should take up Bhakti Yoga, the most essential spiritual practice outlined in every chapter of this conversation. Thus, one is offered the opportunity of permanent happiness and fulfillment by the achievement of Krishna consciousness, considering the perfection of renunciation. In such consciousness, an individual can smile in the face of all situations and circumstances, confident that the smiling Krishna is his constant companion and eternal friend. The acronym is SMILE. S for summary of Karma Yoga, M for modes of nature, I for ideal worker, L for love of God, and E for end result. S for summary of Karma Yoga, verses 1 to 8. The 18th chapter begins by addressing the frequently asked question that seems to pop up again and again. If working in this world seems to attract karmic reactions and implicates us in a web of worldly complexity, is it not safer that we give up work altogether? Krishna disagrees and reiterates that activity is not bad per se. The root of entanglement is the false ego with which we perform the activity, thinking ourselves the controller and enjoyer. In reality, there are 5 causes which bring success to any activity: the individual soul, the body, the senses, the endeavor, and ultimately the supersoul. Since we are only one of the 5, we should never have an overvalued estimation of ourselves. Thus, by working in a spirit of detachment, offering the fruits of labor towards a transcendental goal, one can function in this world and simultaneously remain completely aloof. M for modes of nature, verses 19 to 40. Looking around us, the reality is that most people are deeply engrossed within this material world. Krishna pins this down to the modes of material nature that entangle each person according to their individual mentality. He explains how the modes influence our knowledge, our actions, our understanding, our determination, and ultimately our sense of happiness. I for ideal worker, verses 41 to 55. So what is the solution? On one hand, we're expected to be aloof and unattached workers, but in reality, we have a conditioned nature influenced by the modes, which implicates us in worldly life. Krishna therefore explains the system of Varnashrama, where one engages their inherent nature in different types of work. 4 divisions are outlined: the Brahmana, intelligent class; Kshatriya, martial class; Vaishya, mercantile class; and Shudra, laborer class. One need not artificially imitate another man's duty, but rather embrace what is natural and inborn. By engaging our nature and discharging work in a spirit of God consciousness, we purify ourselves of material propensities and live a happy and peaceful life. L for love of God, verses 56 to 66. In conclusion, all the activities, practices, and elements of spirituality are ultimately aimed at achieving pure love of God. The highest realization in transcendental knowledge is to re-establish one's eternal loving relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada wonderfully sums this up in his purport to 18.65. The most confidential part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of him and act for him. One should not become an official mediator. Life should be so molded that one will always have the chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours he cannot help but think of Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure Krishna consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in the association of Krishna face to face. E. For end result, verses 67 to 78. Knowledge and understanding of the Bhagavad Gita is dependent upon one's consciousness. Only one who approaches these sacred teachings with proper mood and lifestyle will be able to fully comprehend the deep and profound meanings. By hearing and studying this conversation with such favorable temperament, one perceives the spiritual dimension as a tangible reality, and his life becomes exciting and wondrous at every step. Thus, to share this wisdom with society at large constitutes the greatest welfare work in the entire universe.